This podcast has been brought to you by Voyager's World. We are building the most amazing hospitality network. Please visit our website, join us for free, and start participating.
Finally, here you are.
I know, we finally get to meet after all this time. Cheers.
Yes, cheers to that. So for the people wondering what this crazy background is, we are in my workshop.
I know this is a special treat for me because I actually get to see you working on your next project. You know, it's
the crazy things, yeah.
The crazy things that you think about while you're on your run. And
Yes, we'll do podcasts specifically about that soon. But Ari, thank you for coming to Miami.
thank you for hosting me and having me, and for finally, having the opportunity to meet you. You know, it's been such a long journey, and you were there for me during very crucial times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, two people that never even met me.
By being there for you, let me clarify that I was not there. I was just giving support on the phone, explaining things.
Yeah, exactly.
And sharing a little bit of the experience that I had that I thought could help. And I have to say, up to middle of Texas, I was in doubt that you would finish. I didn't think you were thinking right, especially in the very beginning. But then you really got it straight. You really got the system, and you understood the importance of camping and the strategies, and you paced correctly from them on. And then I thought, yeah, it will happen.
Wow, there were a lot of times where I doubted. I think I gave up almost every single day, where it was like, yep, that's it. But I had nowhere else to go, so just camp and then give up tomorrow. But, by then you recover and you just keep going. I guess that's the main thing. But you're right, and I called it, I think a couple times when we talked, I called it getting back on the horse, where at the very beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I cried almost every single day. And at the end, it was like, yeah, I got this. There's no doubt that I'm going to make it. I might have to crawl my way, but yeah, I'm going to make it. I know I've been through so much that I know that I can handle it. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to make it. I'm going to see that ocean no matter what. And I did.
Yeah, the running across America is such a mental challenge that I think people overlook before they are doing it, before they start. They think it's going to be a major athletic challenge. They think that it's in the strict sense of athletic, of physicality. I need to run this much, I need to eat this much, and that by far is not going to be the greatest challenge. The greatest challenge is how to manage your own brain.
Oh, gosh.
That is by far the number one thing. And you can practice to that by doing other things. And there's a lot of preparation that you can do, things that you can read and stuff like that. But it's very difficult to imagine the importance of the mind game before you start doing. Because if you want to run one marathon, it takes a certain kind of mental preparation to tolerate the pain and go through it and not give up in the middle. But to run a marathon every day, run or walk, it doesn't matter, but to do a marathon every day, the mental preparation for that is absolutely unusual. And there is very, very few things that you can compare to that in a challenge that is going to last for the best runners around.
Let's not go there.
60 days, 70 days.
Yeah.
For me, it was like 4 months and a half, And and you did in parts, you did half, and then you did the other half, which I think is more difficult. You, by interrupting in the middle, you made it so much more difficult, because now you had to restart, knowing how painful it is, you know, knowing how difficult it's going to be. You know, if you are already in, I think it's easier. Difficult to use that word. I think it's more acceptable that, okay, I'm in it already. But then you stop and deciding to go back. And deciding to go back in Texas, which is the most, physically, I would say, the most difficult state to do. Because of the straight lines, the monotony of it, and just desert, and there is nothing for days at a time, or at least nothing interesting, and you don't find good food. In West Texas, you know, it's a food desert. So that is a very brutal point to restart.
When you said it was difficult, you said, "Oh, Guadalupe Mountains are going to be the most difficult part," and I was like, "Okay, what does that really mean?" I had no idea. I really changed as a human being. I was a different Ari when I crossed that line. I mean, it changed me in every single way. I was challenged. Like you said, I came back doing my second part of my journey, and I've forgotten a couple things from the first part. And so not only having that, but the outside pressures, the negativity that I also kind of got during my campaign, and the fact that I really wasn't prepared for that desert. I wasn't. I really began to cry again, and I really began to, I think I hit rock bottom. I think I really did. Not only did I lose my passport, my money, I was in the middle of the desert with no cell phone reception, pushing a baby stroller. I crossed during the winter time. I mean, people were with their families enjoying the holidays. And a couple times I was in my tent by myself, and I just said, "What am I doing out here? This is just absolutely insane." I really just wanted a shower and a warm meal, and I just wanted to. I wanted some comforts, and but in reality, I knew I had to finish, and but yeah, Texas. I don't think I ever want to go back there. Maybe Austin, but
it's beautiful to drive around, to drive through. Texas is really a driving country. All right, it's not a state, it's a country. It's a driving place. Like if you go to those parks they have, even West Texas is gorgeous, but it's not that it's not gorgeous at 3 miles per hour. The problem is that the psychological toll it takes on you by not seeing much, you know, and being in the same geography all the time, and only trucks, and it's dusty. It starts to wear you down. It starts to chip away from you. Not like going through desert in Arizona, but in Arizona you're going up and down, and it's beautiful. Oh, here there are flowers, and you know there are different things that you see, and that is not nearly as monotonous as
I know, like
as West Texas.
Like you said, if you drive through Texas, you know it's
awesome.
Well, no, if you drive for an hour or so, nothing really changes. So when you're walking it, it's like you really feel like you haven't really moved very much. And
there is a point I remember where it's like the Road Runner cartoon that is this road that goes all the way to the horizon, and on the other side all the way to the horizon, and you wake up and you run all day. You do like 26, 28, 30 miles. And you stop for camping and you look, and it's still a straight line this way and a straight line that way. Nothing changes. So you don't feel the progress. So I used to, every day, I would occasionally stop, turn around, and look at the horizon and see how things change. I would see the mountains on the edge, and I would think, wow, I came from there, that far. And that would be very uplifting for me. But around Pecos, there is no way around it. All you see is the same thing for a few days. And then you get to Pecos, which is terrible. And everything's absolutely full because of the oil, all the oil rigs. So you cannot get a hotel. You cannot do. I had a camp under the sign that says "Welcome to Pecos." There is some shrubbery, and in the middle it's flat.
I'm sure you waited till very late to camp.
At night nobody's paying attention. Nobody's seeing. So I just got there, and it's a truck stop, a big trucks area next to it, where you can take a shower for like $10, something like it. And so I took a shower there, went and camped right under the sign, and then just left early, because I usually wake up and lift camp before sunrise. But then after Pecos, that desert is pretty tough. It's quite flat, very few places to stop or services. I don't know if Ben is still there, but 23 miles north of Pecos, that is the K&K store, which is not a store, it's just his house. But he hosts people. He receives, people that are passing and gives them beer or gasoline or whatever they need. Super cool guy, but he's very old. I don't know if he's still there. But after that, it's this very gradual going up. It's this super gradual uphill, all the way to the border of New Mexico. Then you turn left, and now it's a little steeper uphill for 2 days. It's 2 days going uphill.
Yeah,
and then you get to the top. What they have there is like vending machines. They have a Coca-Cola machine and some peanuts, and that's it.
You got a little bit more than what I did.
I was fortunate that one of the park rangers went to his home and came back, and he brought me a lot of fruit and some energy bars and soda and beer, and gave it to me. And I was doing the first run. I was doing it with a stroller, like you did.
Yeah.
So I had space, and I put everything there. Because then after Guadalupe Pass, you go down 6-7 miles, and now it's desert. It's a salt flat.
Yeah.
Which is terrible too. And
that's where you had that sandstorm scenario.
With
I thought about it when I was walking.
My
I was
tent
like, oh.
flying away. It was very difficult. And then it's another uphill. It's another gradual uphill that lasts like 2 days.
Yeah,
and then you make the turn. You go through the Customs and Border Patrol.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Go to their station, which was funny, because I find it the funniest thing ever, going through a Border Patrol station in the middle of the desert. So I talked to them, and they say, "What are you doing?" Then you explain, and they call all their friends to see the crazy guy. and after that it's El Paso.
I had a different experience where there was the government shutdown at the time when I was crossing Guadalupe Pass, so there were no rangers there. A lot of people just free camping, and as soon as you get to the very top, and right before I got to that checkpoint station, I got a text message from you and Ruben saying, Ruben, who was going to be my host for El Paso, also a hasher, I guess he was getting sick. So, of course, getting sick was a big no-no for being out there. So I didn't want to stay with him. But right before that, it was getting dark. And I think I had the scariest moment of my entire journey right there, where all of a sudden 4 cars stopped at the very same time. And at that time, I was kind of struggling because I didn't know what to trust. A lot of people were feeding this fear to me. You know, they were saying, what are you doing out there, a female alone with a baby stroller in the middle of the desert? It sounds really crazy, I know, but this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do, you know, and I feel like I'm living like I'm dying, and this is what I want to do. I want to finish my walk across the United States. So anyway, right before that station, maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 miles before that, those 4 cars stopped. You know, it was like, I think a Hummer. I'll never forget him. It was a Hummer, a sedan. I can picture them. And all of a sudden, my heart just dropped. I told myself, this is it. These guys, I mean, they were just like big buff guys like you. I was like, oh gosh. They're like, yeah, you should get in the car. I mean, usually, you know, you got pretty good about sensing people, you know, where...
you read people.
You know, I started getting better at it, where people
But when 4 carloads of big dudes stop at the same time, it's difficult to read them.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, let's see. How do I talk myself out of this one? I'm pretty tired. I haven't showered. Why would they want me, you know? And... oh, there must have been an angel or something watching over me that day, because I was able to just brush him off. I told myself, you know, I have this big stroller. I'm not getting into anybody's car. You know, they would have to kill me first before I got into that car. And I was like, this is why people wanted me to bring guns and stuff? Like, why? I don't know. I was just like, yeah.
That's not really the concern.
Oh, okay.
In a situation like that, a gun would be pretty useless. No, people are much more concerned with wildlife. When they are talking about guns in the desert, they're more concerned with wildlife, especially stray dogs and packs of pigs, wild pigs.
Yeah.
It can be a little situation. So it's better to
like the javelinas, or
yeah, they have this out of control number of wild pigs in West Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico, and they run in packs and they kill. If they come in as a pack, they may kill you, and they are incredibly aggressive. So even I don't know how precise this advice is, but when I was talking to Ben about it, he said, "Oh, if you see a pack of pigs and they come towards you, kill the first one, and because the other ones will eat that one."
And how would you recommend killing the very first one?
Shoot him. That's where the gun comes in. So the guns are not to defend against people. People are going to be help for you most of the situations.
Definitely.
And
yeah,
it's like that percentage of people that actually want to do you harm, that will find you randomly and want to do harm. That percentage is so little that you may never, ever find them, even if you're searching for it.
I don't know.
It's not easy. No, it's not easy. The number of people out there compared to the number of things that actually happened, it's very little. I'm not saying that you should not prepare for that. Well, I'm not saying that you should not prevent it. What I'm saying is that the odds of that happening are incredibly low. It's like one of the things that I tell in self-defense is that you need to know how to deal with an unfriendly encounter. But you also need to know how to deal with a friendly encounter. You cannot push people away when they are actually not harmed. They
Exactly.
are trying to help you.
Yeah,
they are trying to be cool.
Yeah.
And then if you are afraid incorrectly, you have to be alert. But that doesn't mean you have to push them away, because sometimes all they want to do is to help you. And I learned that not just running, but also in motorcycle riding, sailing. Sometimes there is a fishing boat approaching. Oh my God, it may be pirates. No, it's a fisherman wants to give you a lobster to see if you give him a pack of cigarettes, because that's what he wants.
Old style,
You
yeah.
know? Yeah, he'll give you all his fish for the cigarettes. You know,
Yeah.
he's really
Yeah, what else you got?
craving it.
For sure.
So you know, you're thinking pirates, he's thinking cigarettes. You know?
And that is so true, because at the very beginning I was terrified of people. You know, I was fed so much fear that I didn't know how to listen to myself and to just the surroundings and the ability to read others.
Yeah.
You know, it's a certain language that people use, and maybe it's like certain hormones people release.
It's being able to, instead of reading the information you had that other people gave you, other people that were not there, instead of using their information, you have to use the information that you have in front of you. You have to measure and estimate risk based on what you are actually seeing, not what you heard of before. And that brings me to a thing that I love to talk about, which is fear and assessment of risk. I think that is an amazing subject. There are many people considering running across America, and they are maybe not doing it, especially girls. They're not doing it because they are too afraid. Oh, because I'm a girl, you know, and then they end up not doing it at all, which I think is it's a mistake, because you're not trying to learn how to measure things. You're just reacting to, and especially if you watch TV too much, that's going to completely fuck up your perception.
Oh gosh, that's why I don't watch any TV.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah, TV sells violence in a way that has no connection to reality. No connection. You
Well,
know,
there's
people say,
so much
"Oh,
fear
yeah.
being fed that's all you believe in,
there's
and
no
that's the
connection.
way you know. It's interesting that you say that, because a lot of the times, you know, having crossed, I feel like we have friends every 20 miles or so. We know somebody, you know, either somebody that hosted us or somebody that gave us a banana, some water or something. And that was the majority of the people that we encountered. And the majority of people that didn't even know us and just opened up their homes to us and said, yeah, of course you can pitch a tent. Why not, you know, spend the night in my house. But those strangers that went out of their way to believe in our journey and on our crazy dream, that doesn't make news, you know. Like
that doesn't make any news, exactly.
Nobody cares about that.
But back to the girl factor. So I had some discussions with people about the what I call the girl factor. They say, oh, but I'm a girl, so it's more dangerous for me because I'm more vulnerable. Say yes, but you will also attract more compassion, more help, more goodwill, and in my opinion, that has its own advantage as well. You know, if a girl is doing something like that, she will attract more help in a way that kind of compensates for it. It doesn't compensate because you're not changing. You're not changing orange for orange. You're changing apples for orange, right? So you are getting a benefit but you still have the problem. So, but the experience that I see, my friends that ran across America, there are girls that I know that did it. You know, like Zoe did when she was 23, and I know a couple others that did similar things. They had to deal with that fear. But they also attracted so much more attention. The media pays more attention. The cops pay more attention. Everybody is looking after them. You know, if a guy is coming across, they go like, if he shows up, we'll give him a beer. You know, like because we want to hear the story. So that is an advantage that kind of compensates. I don't know if it compensates enough, but the fear that a girl should not do this alone because it's too dangerous. I don't know. It's not. It's objectively. I don't think you can make that assertion. It may be a great experience. for a girl, and I don't believe that the risk is unmanageable, or the risk is totally unreasonable. You know, if we had a situation that one out of every 5 girls disappear trying to do this, yeah, I would say, whoa, wait a minute, this is not going well, you know. But they all finish, you know. The girls that are getting in trouble and disappearing, it's not because they are running across America.
No.
It's in all walks of life, and it's someone that knows them or that is watching them, you know, a stalker or a crazy guy, and or guys, and it's rarely random. It's rarely out from someone away from their own community. You know, it's usually someone they know, or at least a little. So now, statistically, I think now nothing adds up. What really adds up is the way that you manage it, the way that you pay attention to your surroundings, the way you have communication and people that know where you are. Like you had a few people that could pinpoint your location using your phone. I recommended that you had someone calling ahead your next town and telling the cops and the firefighters that you are coming, because it prepares them for the calls that they are going to get. That, there is a crazy lady running down the highway with a baby, and they don't need to respond thinking that you are a crazy lady. They think
that's up for debate.
If they show up, it's usually because they want to offer help, right? And how many times did that happen?
Many times, you know, they would stop and, you know, make sure that I was okay. Sometimes they would, you know, make sure that I didn't have any warrants out. Yeah. Of course I didn't. And what my fear was when I was going through Texas was that I lost my passport in the middle of the desert. So I was like, oh, if a cop stops me, or going through that checkpoint in El Paso, I was like, oh gosh, they're probably going to deport me back or something. Who knows? But luckily, I made it, you know. So
yeah. So I think that there are many factors that are slightly random, but the factor that will weigh in the most is how you handle yourself. For instance, advice for guys. This advice is for everybody. It's not just for girls. When you're camping and you're wild camping, make sure that you are doing that where nobody can see you. That
was the
number one advice that I gave you.
Yeah.
Camp where nobody can see you. Yeah. You know, don't camp behind the church. Don't camp, you know, in the park. You know, don't camp on the side of the road. Camp where nobody can see you. Nobody will do anything to you if they cannot see you.
That's true. Or that's why it was so crucial. You know, I remember. That's why Texas was so important to me, you know, where I basically had to learn everything again, you know, jumping through fences where you sent me that Tyvek or construction material so I could climb over and get everything ready 1 hour before sunset, and leaving my stroller behind, which was kind of scary.
It's weird.
Yeah, I'm leaving my house on the other side of the fence, and you want me to jump over the other side, but I have to wait an hour before sunset and wait for no cars to see me? Is that what you want me to do? All right, I guess I could do it. And listening to coyotes all night? Yeah, that's what you want me to do? Yeah. All right. It was so scary at first.
Coyotes is not a major problem. The mountain lions are a problem.
Well, I don't know, just hearing them all night. But then at the end, I think that's why I really enjoyed New Mexico, Arizona, and California so much. I was like, I already crossed Texas. Bring it. You know, bring whatever you have.
Yeah, to me, Texas is a mental challenge, yes, because of that constant desert and discomfort for so many days. But if I have to rank the states by difficulty, Louisiana is number one for sure, because of those roads with no walkway on the side, no breakdown lane. Yeah. So you have road or jungle, road or really bad, and it's not grass. It's not nice grass that you can push a stroller or run through it.
No.
It's really bad, and you are worried about snakes and oh no. And so you have to run on the road, looking at the traffic and listening to the traffic that is coming behind you, because someone may be overtaking another car and be on your lane. So you have to be really on the edge of the lane and ready to get out. You know, and Louisiana has a lot of that.
Yep, that's
a
for
lot
sure.
of it. And then I remember this bridge that it was swamp on every side, swamp on both sides. So the road has that problem. You have to be on the road, but then you come to a bridge, and it doesn't have any sign, nothing. And I thought, okay, and no area for
Was this your first time crossing?
The first time.
Yeah.
No area for pedestrians or anything. You know, so there was no place that I could put the stroller on top and go along the bridge. No, I had to be on the lane. So I thought, I don't have a solution for this. I'll have to improvise. So what I did, and instead of going on the edge, close to the how do they call it? The side of it, now that little wall. Instead of going on the edge, I went right on the middle. Right on the middle, so now the cars could see me from far. I was, a guy with a stroller in the middle of the road, and I would go right in the middle and running. And I thought, oh, this must be like, who knows, half a mile. I'll run. So I did really fast, and people would be, honking and yelling at me and all that, and then they had to pass around and all that. But I was right in the middle of the road, but I did it for like half an hour. 1 hour, that's already like 3-4 miles. An hour and a half.
You're like, how long is this going to last?
I was thinking that, how far is this? There is no sign or nothing. It was about 1 hour, 40 minutes. It was crazy. It was panic for 1 hour, 40 minutes. Running in the middle of the road, And then when I got to the edge of the road, the cops were waiting for me. They said, oh, we heard that there was someone running on the middle of the road.
Yeah.
I said, really? And you didn't go to help me?
Yeah.
So you waited here while I'm having the time of my life dodging cars. And you are here sitting, waiting. Are you for real? And they said, no, we wanted to make sure that you're not a crazy person. No,
so you guys didn't drive over there? They
didn't go to search for me. They just waited.
They're like, well, if he makes it, we'll help him.
If he makes it, we're going to give him a ticket maybe. I don't know. No, they didn't give me a ticket or a hard time. I just asked them, like, why didn't you go? I was in panic. I thought the bridge was short. I was it would be like a normal, really short bridge. No, he said, no, this is 6 miles and a half. I said, wow.
6 miles and a half. Oh, for you, it's like, you're like, I got it. But still, like having services, being able to pee, like the basic things.
No, like just being in panic that you are in
dodging
traffic.
cars.
In traffic, the cars are looking at you, and if they don't see you, like if they are distracted, I would have to sacrifice the stroller and be on the edge and go on the edge,
and sacrifice your life.
He wouldn't hit me. He wouldn't hit me.
Oh, I see.
The stroller would fly away, right? It would. I believe I could save my life on that one without much problem, but I couldn't save me and the stroller at the same time because there was nowhere to go.
Well, you can replace the stroller, but
of course, but that's not something that you're looking forward to do.
No.
So Louisiana was really difficult. The no mosquitoes though, because I did it during winter. So the mosquito part was easy. But I'll give you an example of a situation that I encountered that I think is very informative. When I was doing the second run, so now I was backpacking, and I crossed the border exactly at that point where you crossed on not the main road because you cannot go through on foot, the other road where you come from La Grange. And
what states? I'm sorry.
Between Texas and Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
So when you cross the border, there is a bridge. After the bridge,
yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You can go on the sides, and there are nice camping spots there. So I went to this. So I was going east. I crossed the state line, crossed the bridge, turned left. And when I got there was a guy camping, and he was covered in prison tattoos, And so I talked to him. Oh yeah, and he didn't hear me arriving because he had headphones. He was listening to music.
Mm-hmm.
So very carefully, I went around and I flanked him, and I went like, "Hey!" And then he said, "Oh, okay."
You're like, hey.
And he was so happy to see me, and he told me that he was from Michigan or Illinois, something like that, and that he got released, and he decided to
Released
see
from what?
From prison, so that he was trying to maybe turn his life around or something. So he heard that there were jobs in New Orleans, and so he hitchhiked to New Orleans,
Like construction jobs, or who knows?
I don't know. But then he didn't find much, and he didn't like it. So he knew that in West Texas there are a lot of jobs, and I told him, "You are right.
Yes.
A lot of work in West Texas.
my
So
gosh.
you're going to be able to choose what to do. And if you have any interesting skills like welding or piping, something like that,
Oh my gosh,
you
you're
are going to do well in West Texas." Oh, good to know. And then we were talking. He was sharing his food. He had some, I don't remember what he had, but it was something good, because I remember that we were sharing a meal.
Yeah.
And I got some beers at the store nearby.
You're like, yeah, I'm just
And-
gonna jog
and
3 miles down and grab some beer.
Yeah, no. Right before the state line, there is a store. So there is a store, the state line, the bridge, and then the camping.
Okay.
So at the store, I got some beers. But because I like to for at night have a beer or two. But I think that by coincidence, I bought a little more. So I shared my beer with him. He offered me some weed. I declined, but we had a really nice conversation. He told me about the time when he was a kid and he lived on a river, by the river, similar to where we were, and he told me about the animals and the things that you can catch, that you can eat. It was a beautiful, amazing camping dinner with a stranger. Right, and then he finished setting up his camp. I set up my camp a little bit further, and I thought this was a really nice experience. And he's happy, he's high, he's lightly drunk, but I don't know how he is in the morning, right?
Oh.
And I don't want to know. So I set up my alarm for a little bit earlier than usual. I was usually waking up around 5:30. I put it for like 4:30. So I woke up a little earlier, and then I left camp quietly, and I left and never saw him again. So I left while he was still sleeping. And so the second part is the safety part that I had to take care of. Okay, I want to avoid meeting him in a bad mood in the morning when he's hungover. But the dinner was the friendly part of it. And it was a very good experience because I had both with the same person. I had the friendly and the potentially dangerous one in the same continuum. I find that very, very informative. So some people you want to meet them at one time, but you don't want to meet them at another. And the gun thing is funny. In Texas and in Louisiana, Texas, in Alabama, and in Arizona, people offer me guns along the way.
Yes.
Because they just find it weird that you are going around without one.
No,
and the cops, several times when they stopped me and they asked if I had any weapons, I said yes, and I pointed at my knife because I had the knife right outside. They never asked, "Do you have anything else?" Because I would say, I would tell, but I was always say, "Oh yeah, I have a knife." What do you have a knife for? I would like to say, in case of cake, Or if a motherfucker needs to be stabbed. But no, instead I said, no, it's because of dogs. I'm really afraid of dogs. And you know, when they see us on the road and they say, oh yeah, that makes sense.
In my case, it would be for cooking, because I did a lot of cooking. You know, I'd be like, yeah, of course, I have my cooking knife. But that's interesting that you would say
then you pull like a Rambo knife like this.
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, you know, I got to chop my veggies. But going through New Mexico, you know, I with my campaign, I stopped and I spoke at the schools, and I just wanted to share my program. I said, you know, this is it. I'm gonna, you know, change the world. I was so naive at the time. And the kids in elementary school wanted to know if I carried a gun. And
the kids were asking?
The kids, I was like, you're in elementary school. Like, why? Yeah. I was just blown away by that. Like, why are kids wanting to know that? So... you know, I was playing with Barbies at that time, like, oh. But thank you.
The beer for you. Oh, no, take this one. So tell me about Ruben and Machete.
Wow. So right before I met him, I hit my absolute low point, I think, of my entire campaign. You know, just not having had a shower. Countering those scary people, just I was absolutely done. I really wanted to give up again. I was like, this is it. I'm just never going to finish. Like, seriously. And then you calling me and telling me Ruben's not going to host me. But luckily, I was able to convince him. I'm like, listen, I will wash my hands every second. I just want you to pick me up right now. And he did. He picked me up, and I will never forget Ruben. You know, he holds a special place in my heart. You know, just we really it was I think it was Christmas Day, and I was like, why aren't you with your family? You know, like I know I'm not with my family either, and we shared a very special Christmas Day. You know, he was definitely the best gift I could ever ask for. So thank you, thank you very much. But the following day, he invited some of the hashers out, and they all, you guys are like a family, you know, everywhere you go, they started cooking, they brought me in like I was their sister, and they made me feel like I was at home, and I think at that time I really needed it. And you told me about Machete, and I said, you must be Machete. I mean, he looks exactly like him. And I just had a blast with those guys. I was like, I didn't want that night to end.
But Chad is a great guy too.
He is, yeah.
So this is an advice that I give to runners, and they rarely follow. Join the Hash House Harriers. It's the greatest network ever, because it's a network based on fun, based on friendship. It's not the center point. It is not hosting or traveling, not even running. It's socializing. It's drinking together. It's having, you know, friendship, and then they travel and they host people, and of course we like to run together and drink beer, but it's a network that grows out of the most casual, friendly setup, and it's like having friends in every city.
Exactly.
You know, you go there, you already have friends.
And what's weird is that you're like a legend there in the Hash in El Paso. They're like they talked about you, and they knew so many stories about you. But at that time, of course,
I didn't believe anything.
I didn't know anything, and of course, I never met you in person. So for me, I was just like, who is this? Of course, he's guiding me through it, and you were, you know, you're my mentor during that. So I can't thank you enough for it. So yeah,
fun.
Cheers, yeah. Like, yeah, I'm listening to the stranger on the internet, but
yeah, right. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
Right?
Listening to a stranger on the internet.
Keep pushing that baby stroller around. So.
Yeah. But I think it's a nice joke, but you knew that I was not a stranger. You knew that I did it.
Of course.
Before,
yeah. I mean,
and
I
you saw me on the USA Crossers and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure why I picked you, but I just wanted to find out more information, especially when I was doing my background.
I remember that post. I remember that first time that you contacted me. It's because it was right after I posted my book, and I said, hey, anybody can download the book for free,
Okay.
and then you sent me a message. I remember that circumstance. And the book is not too much about the run. It's not about running.
No, not
It's
at all.
about the run. It's not about running. It's about the psychological, interesting things that I observed on the people that I met along the way. And hence the name 100 Days of Madness. 100 because I was trying to do it in 100. End up being 117. Good enough. And Days of Madness because my conclusion was that observing the American lifestyle along the way, I imply on the book that they're all mad. They're all crazy. That I was the only sane person going.
I'm sure they didn't perceive the same.
You are absolutely right. They
opposite.
That opinion is not unanimous. that I was the only sane one going through the landscape. But I had the opportunity for the first time to see this culture and this lifestyle as an alien. Not an alien from Mexico, I mean, from another planet, right?
Yeah.
Like an alien that doesn't know anything about it, and he's looking at it. Why do they all go at the same time? They go that way, and then they all at the same time go the other way. Why do this? Right?
It's interesting that you say that because we both traveled a lot and we've seen a lot of different cultures, but seeing our country at 3 miles an hour and seeing all these different subcultures, and then within those subcultures you get to see somebody's life, somebody's world where they frequent the same grocery store, the same coworkers, and and they give you that glimpse. When they open up their homes to us, they allowed us to be a part of their life for just that one day. It's basically a gift.
You can tell that you really know America now.
Oh,
or at least you really know the South.
Yes.
You really know the South.
Yes.
Maybe doing and I know I have friends that they ran across the North and they said that it was different, but they didn't do the South, so they cannot compare. But if I was to run it again, I would then do it through the North.
Do the North.
To the North, I would go from Yankee country to hippie country. Do the Maine to Washington. To me, that would be much more interesting now, because it'll be the parts that I don't know that well. Well, I know New England very well, but not the middle and the west is still.
Well, you definitely will get to really know it intimately if you do. So.
Yeah, it's. But when I finished the first time, I was very sure that I didn't want to do it again. Then I did it again, and when I ended, I was very sure that I didn't want to do it again. But so far it's lasting. This time, that feeling of I don't want to do it again.
How long has it been?
Has been 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah. And how long was it between your first and your second one?
3 years.
3 years. Wow.
3 years
so you got that itch within a 3-year span.
Exactly the year after. In 2012, I ran the Ragnar, and I did that night part through the Everglades where they cannot be near you for support because there is no place to stop the car.
Yeah.
So I was alone in the dark, only other runners, and all the other runners were faster than me. So I was running alone, and looking at the road and the moon and the stars and the ocean next to me, I felt that I was missing being on the road.
Oh,
at that moment, I felt like, oh, this is so good.
Oh gosh, I know that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I know that feeling for sure.
But I only felt that when I was running at night in the dark. Yeah.
Which is one of the rules that you told me not to do, where, I run during the day. During the day, you want to be absolutely visible, at night you just want to be absolutely invisible.
Exactly.
You know, not
Yeah, but
visible
I
to
usually
anybody else.
started before sunrise. So, but then there is almost no traffic, and in fact, I did something very nice. Mostly in Arizona, I would wake up a little earlier, like 4:30, because my normal time was 5:36. But I would wake up at 4:30, lift camp, and then go to the road. There was no traffic, no light pollution. You can see the Milky Way perfectly.
Yeah.
And it was especially good on nights that the moon was very low, or you couldn't see the moon. And then on those days, I would go to the middle of the road, to the white line, because now I could see the white line perfectly.
And I would follow you.
And I would
follow
run,
that?
not even looking at the road. I would run looking at the sky. And I would really look at the sky for minutes running, and then I would check again. Oh, the line is over here. Correct a little bit.
Yeah.
Continue just looking at the sky. And you could hear a car coming from miles away, and then you get out of the way. But sometimes I would be on the road for like half an hour without a single car going by, and I would be running. And another thing that I did, I believe you had some encounters with the cops along the way that you were telling us on Facebook, and then I said, cover the stroller with something. Because in my case, the cops were stopping me every day. I didn't have someone calling ahead of me. The cops were stopping me every day, and they would check it. Okay, everything is all right. But then I got that space blanket.
Yeah, the emergency blanket.
And I covered the stroller with the emergency blanket. So now it didn't look like I had a baby there. It just looked like I was a crazy guy. And nobody gives a shit about the crazy guy, so nobody stopped me. In fact, after I did that, it was I think I did it in Alabama. After that, I was only stopped by the cops like once or twice.
Was that on your first or your second? Because
the first time.
The first time, because you were going from Miami to LA?
To Los Angeles. But the second time, I was using the backpack. With the backpack, nobody calls saying there is a crazy guy with a baby, because they didn't infer that.
So did you have a lot less help then with a backpack rather than with a stroller?
None.
Almost none.
Almost none. All the help I had, all the help I had was hashers and couch surfers and friends.
Wow.
But people didn't stop the car to help a guy in a backpack. Because a guy in a backpack just looks like homeless.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Right?
Yeah.
If it is someone on a stroller, they don't know what it is. So now curiosity may take over. But if it is a man with a backpack, even though it's a very small backpack, looks weirdly small, but there is no curiosity about it. It's just a guy. Right?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So nobody would stop. I would occasionally approach the contractors in their trucks to ask them for water, because they always have a lot of water. But
I remember you telling me that.
But I was not approached by almost anyone during the second one.
That's interesting, because you encouraged me, especially when I was going through Texas about halfway, you wanted me to switch over to a backpack. We talked about it, and I was for it too. But at that time, this is what I was used to in terms of being able to carry all my things, being able to. By then, I think I mastered camping, especially after Texas. Where I think it made Arizona, New Mexico, and California just so much more enjoyable. By then, I encountered everything that you can possibly imagine that I didn't need to switch over, and I just went for it. So
I think that my question about the having a backpack was more like, if you want to consider switching, then you have to switch now. not when you're facing mountains and snow and ice and all that, so that this is the less flat part of it. And that's why I encourage you, if you want to change, then change now. Don't try to change later.
Yeah.
Because physically this was the last flat part of it, right? After Pecos, then it gets different. It would be a lot more challenging. You had several people that they love you, they want the best for you, but they were concerned, or they were freaking out about what you're just about to do. And what it is that you can tell to other people that also have relatives and friends and relationships, that the people are going to freak out. And I'm wondering, I don't know the answer, but I wonder what it is that you can tell them that will calm them up a little bit, or reduce their worries a little, or do like me, just don't tell your relatives, just go. Yeah.
That is that's a great question that you asked. I think that's probably the best question you've asked so far. And
gee, was it that bad?
But it's so true, especially as a female. I can tell you that a lot of people try to discourage me from even starting this journey, and let alone restarting, which was a lot harder for me to do. And my advice to them would be that everyone's just try to discourage you at whatever dream that you have, especially walking or running across the United States, because it's hard enough to explain this to other runners, yet alone to just regular people that don't even understand. So a lot of the times I would try to explain what I was doing to people, and they would say, "Oh yeah, you have a support vehicle going around, or you have other people following you." And it's like, no, it's just me. But in the end, I think that we have to follow our own dreams and confront all of those fears, because at the beginning, I guess what was so difficult for me was that I believed, and I truly felt those fears at the very beginning. So I had to overcome them. For instance, I had a trust in you, who at the time I didn't even know you in person. I all I knew was that, yeah, you've crossed, but I didn't even put I don't think I even had a picture of you to even put that in perspective. So I guess in reality, just follow your dreams, follow your gut, and just go for it. That's, I guess, my best advice, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know how to handle that. How to handle people being negative. I like to believe that I'm very good at persuading people and that I'm good at communicating, but apparently I have a blind spot for when people are freaking out. I just don't know what to do from that point on. And I know that there are people that are better than I am.
What do you mean by that?
When they are already in fear for you, when they are already freaking out about it, they are already negative, then I tend to just walk away. But you cannot walk away from relatives. You cannot walk away from your closest friends. Well, I think you may have to at some point, but you don't normally do that. You try to explain and accommodate and somehow remediate that situation.
But you're not.
I just don't know how to do it. I didn't have to do that too much. I had when I ran the first time. first I told everybody that I was going to do it. And of course, most of my friends thought that it was a joke or something like that. And I don't blame them. You know, if one of your friends who is a couch potato suddenly says that he's going to run across America, would you believe it? It's hard. You know, it's hard to take that very seriously.
Yeah.
But a few of them did. And I had very few people being negative about it. Occasionally they had a question that was like so misinformed that it would be irrelevant, but generally they took it easy and didn't question me too much. But when I said that I was going to do it again, everybody believed. No, naturally, because
there's no doubt.
Exactly, I mean, because I did it before. So
but the question is why? I mean, why would you?
That was the question.
Yeah,
exactly. When I said that I was going to do it again, they said, "What for?" It was very difficult to explain why the second one was so different than the first. Why my mentality was different, and how the first one was more like a challenge to know that to test to measure myself against a challenge that I couldn't be sure that I could finish. That I would have to put everything into it. But the second time was a pilgrimage. And a pilgrimage is a completely different experience. It's a pilgrimage, you don't even need to finish. You just go for as long as it seems to be. It doesn't even have I end up defining that, okay, I want to do all the way back to Miami, but it could be different. I could have done that pilgrimage and change it and do a different path. You know, it wouldn't be incongruent to the idea of a pilgrimage. So the difficulty was to explain what is the difference, what is it that I'm doing this time. Also because the entire idea of pilgrimage is very alien to most people. You know, they don't understand that. You tell about doing El Camino in Spain or something like that, or the Appalachian Trail, and they go like, huh? Why?
Well, that's one thing, though. I think we've talked about this before, where you're doing these trails, the PCT, Continental Divide, Appalachian Trail. These are trails where you know exactly where you're going, you know that you can camp, and not a lot of people go out there unless you're out there doing the trail yourself. I mean, I don't think you would encounter a lot of, I guess, strangers.
Do you mean that when you are on the trail, everybody that you meet, being a runner or walker or not, being a pilgrim or not, at least they are familiar with it. They're familiar with seeing everybody doing that.
Yes, and you can share that experience. I think for us, it's like we're out there and there's no exact route for us. You don't really know where you're going to sleep, where you're going to camp, and it's a little bit more alien. There's a lot of more moving factors, I guess.
Yes, you're right. And also, when you meet people, you are a surprise to them because they are not expecting anybody walking across. A lot of people don't even think it's possible.
Oh yes.
I had no idea that this kind of thing existed, until I saw a documentary with Eddie Izzard that he ran around England, and he's a comedian. He's not an athlete. He's not a super ultra runner or something like that. He's a comedian that likes to wear dresses and high heels. So he but he's about the same age as I am, about the same weight, and different injuries, but similar body, and then he did 1,100 miles. He did 47 marathons in 51 days. And I thought, if he can do that, then I can do that. It's not. He didn't self-destruct. He didn't implode, and so I thought it was possible. But before that, it never occurred to me to run such a long distance that you cannot even, you cannot how's the word? You cannot conceptualize that very well. For instance, you cannot run 3,000 miles. It's impossible. You cannot run 500 miles.
Nothing's
it's impossible. No, it's impossible. You have to run 30 miles or 20 or 30 or whatever it is that you can do one day. And the next day you do it again. The next day you do it again. Yeah. You need to mentally break it in smaller pieces. And then you do that smaller piece. And that smaller piece your brain can handle.
Yep.
And then you do it again, and again. Because the 3,000 mile is a very abstract thing. You know, that's how you count backwards. At the end you say, oh, okay, I did 2,800, in my case, 2834, something like that.
Is that from Miami to LA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2,800. I don't remember now. But I wrote it somewhere, and it's on the book. So the mentally you need to break it down in small pieces. That's how you handle it. You know. So to me, before I did the first one, it never occurred to me that it was something possible. And then I read Dean Karnazes' book, where he starts the book with his 200-mile run that he ends up at a marathon, and then he runs the marathon.
That's like you when you end up at the hash runs and then you're like, I'm going to run them again.
Yeah, he spends like 30 hours running to arrive at a marathon at the beginning of it, and then he runs the marathon.
That's amazing.
You know, and I was reading that book, and I thought, he doesn't have a gene that I don't. You know, there is no. What he has is a lifetime of training. You know, he has a lifetime of training and experience, but he doesn't have an extra bone or muscle that I don't. So I may create a special training and thinking and training routine that will get me to do this other thing. You know, I don't think I can do 200 miles plus a marathon in one shot unless I spend a few years training for that. But I can do a marathon easily, and then slowly, and the next day do another marathon with 5 months of training. That seems possible.
Right on when you said possible, one of the favorite quotes that you sent me, I remember you said, if you limit yourself to only what seems possible, then you limit yourself to, I don't remember, I don't want to butcher the entire quote, but you sent me this quote and it just made a big impression on me. Like, why are we just limiting ourselves to what's been done, to what people tell us that will be possible? Like, why don't we just think outside the box, like with your projects? That's why I'm so fascinated by that. And walking across the states, like you said, when you encounter all these people, they didn't think it was possible. They didn't even know that people would even attempt
almost
it.
Any innovation. Well, I'm not going to quote myself. I'll quote Burt Rutan. That he explained. He's the guy that designed the Spaceship One and many airplanes that were revolutionary, and he created an entire industry of people building airplanes in their own homes, in their garages, and flying them.
The experimental?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
The experimental segment grew incredibly from his designs. He didn't create the segment, but he made it rich with great options. But he says something that I need, of course, I'm paraphrasing. He says that if you, almost every innovation, real innovation, is the result of some nonsense. Someone decided to do something, and people would look at it and they'll think, nah, this is nonsense. This cannot work. But then he goes there and he goes to the shop and he builds the thing and tests, And most of these things fail. But sometimes they work. And then people have to go backwards and think, oh, so why does it work? What is it that this guy was saying that didn't make any sense? And then they understand it. And then right. you get an innovation in your hands, right? But innovations are always the results of people that do things that don't make sense. And in the government with their big projects and that he hates Boeing and the way they do things and the way that these government programs are incredibly expensive. And he says, yeah, they're incredibly expensive because they cannot invent anything. Everything everything has to be done with a level of safety and certainty that doesn't give any space to invent anything new. That's why in just 10 years there were 9 space programs, 9 space orbital projects in just 9 years. And then in the next 40 years there were like 4. Because during that first 9 years, it was a desperate time. Like, we were pushing so hard forward with the space program that people were dying doing this. We were taking risks that were incredible. And in his opinion, the greatest example is the Apollo 8. Apollo 8 was the first time that they had that rocket so powerful. And they put people on top and sent them to the moon to orbit the moon on the first flight. NASA doesn't do this kind of thing anymore, right? Now they will test and test and test and test and certify and test again and test to then maybe use it, right? At that time, you would build a rocket, put the guys on top. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's go for it.
The level of risk was incredible. During the 60s, between the 60s and 70s, they lost one, worldwide, including the Russians, they lost an astronaut for every 50 flights, something like that. It was bad odds. Bad odds. And so you cannot, if you worry too much about safety, you cannot run across America.
I think it's too
just because
easy.
Of traffic.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's
Traffic
too easy
alone.
to talk yourself out of anything.
Yeah.
Once you start, like, hey, I'm going to jump off something, you can easily just say,
you can create excuses to not do it. And if you are smart, you are going to create smart excuses.
Oh, gosh.
So this is easier to do if you're dumb. It's much easier. The dumber you are, the easier it is.
I didn't think about that one.
Yeah. Yeah, because the smarter you are, the smarter the excuses. So it requires a certain simplicity of purpose, to do it. But it also has a fantastic benefit that I only realized when I was doing it, which is when you are doing your regular life, like having work and family and obligations and several things to do. Every day your agenda has 15 things to do, right? Every normal day. But when you are there on the road, you only have one thing to do, right? You have to add miles in that direction. And then at the end of the day, you rest and you're tired and you're exhausted and all that and you camp. But next day, you only have one thing to do, which is keep going in that direction. It's so simple. Life is so uncomplicated while you are there. And that uncomplicated aspect I miss every day. Because now I have to do 15 things.
Not so much. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of moving parts in terms of depending on others, where, yes, you're right. You have to cover a certain amount of miles. If you want to, you could take a rest day. At least for me, I had that flexibility. I didn't have that restraint of, finishing it in 100 days. For me, like you said, if I went any slower, I'd go back in time.
Yeah.
but trying to depend on others, which was a little bit difficult for me, where, sometimes I would have hosts lined up and they either backed out, or I would have to struggle to find somebody else, depending on others in terms of getting shelter, food, or a shower. That was a little bit difficult for me. So yeah, going back to the fundamentals, of having, basic survival skills to get you to the next day and get you to the next mile marker and get you closer to that endpoint that you were trying to get to.
But my point is that all those complications were still with just one goal.
I guess
all you
you're right.
had to do is keep going that way. You didn't have meetings to go. You didn't have to do anything else that was not in service of that goal.
Right. I guess you're right. You have one goal that you're searching
that
for,
that you're dedicating your day to. Even if you're resting to be able to do more. Right?
Yeah.
If you're taking a day off, it's because you need to recover so you can keep going. And life becomes incredibly simple when all you have to do is go in one direction. And then one day, sooner or later, the ocean will show up.
No matter what.
No matter what. One day, you end up meeting the ocean. And that is the only certainty you have. You have this certainty that all you have to do is keep going in that direction.
And that was very difficult for me to grasp, I was like, I'm in Florida or wherever I was, and there's no way I'm going to see an ocean again, especially the Pacific Ocean, because that's what I was headed to, the Atlantic to the Pacific. And it just didn't seem real. It didn't seem possible at the time, and I guess I was back with everybody else's mentality.
Were we talking? Yeah, we were talking when you were going around Austin. And then I told you, I remember that, I told you that now it's a very interesting point because you start counting the miles down, if you
prefer.
Yes,
I remember that exactly.
From now, every day, the number of miles that you have to do is less than the number of miles that you already did.
Yes.
So you are capable.
Yes.
Right? Because if you did 1,800 miles, you're capable of doing 1,600, no matter what.
Yeah,
right?
You're like, you've already done it, so you can do it. Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it changes that the now you can count down if you prefer. The number of miles is always less, right? And you are in better shape. No matter what shape you started with, you are in better shape at that point. Yeah.
Not only that, but it's like I think you kind of understand what you're going through, because I remember one of the first things that you said, was that people can read your book 100 times, but they still have no idea what it's like to be on the road, until you actually do it. Yeah. And I understand, because I think I read it a couple of times. I even had a friend of mine read it just so I could ask her questions based on what you said, and you're so right. I don't think I read your book before I started, and I still don't think I was prepared for what I went through.
Right.
No way. It doesn't even come close.
But now, now is a different situation. Now you already did.
Yeah.
So that means that if you put your mind in doing something from here on, chances are you will do it, because you have that thing in your brain that understands that all I need to do is keep going in that direction. Just keep going, keep moving a little more. If you need to build something, just build a little more. Just keep building a little more, because at some point it will be ready. That's how I'm building my own. I'm building boats and things like that now. I wish I was in your shop. That every day, every day. I go to the shop. I have no stress about it. All I think is, all I have to do today is build some more. At some point, it will be ready. I don't need to know when it's going to be ready.
Are you still going to have launch day this weekend?
Yeah, I would like to put the model on the water today, but we'll see. We'll see. It will happen, probably.
That's exciting.
But yeah, but the thing about building things, and that's my next challenge. Sometimes people ask, so what is the next thing, you know?
That's always the next question.
If I say, now if you say that you're going to run to the moon, your friends are going to start buying telescopes.
I know, they'll be like, all right, well, she's actually going to do it. Yeah.
But I decided to go for a much more challenging project, much more difficult, which is building a boat. And it's much more complex.
Well, not only just a boat. I mean, you're talking about a boat that has this other craft, I guess, that will be able to
it's a tremendously complex project.
So it's a little, yeah.
It's complicated in finances. It's complicated in engineering, and it's definitely complicated in project management. So, and it's a complete change of my life, just like the runs were, you know. And you're feeling that now. Everything in your life now is before the run or after the run, right?
Oh gosh,
the lifestyle completely divided.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen to every runner. Even runners that did it several times, they report that every time was special. Every time was special. That is something so intense in it that it can, no matter how many memories you have of doing it, it is intense enough. Now, let's talk about the finishing of it. When I finished, I thought, running through, I used to think that I would build up this emotional build-up and that it would build and build and build and intensify, and then when I would reach the end, I would explode in a million pieces and fall through the sky in different light. No, I had this impression that somehow it has to be something really intense. But it is, but in a very different way than I imagined. The feeling was not of intensity. The feeling was peacefulness. That last day, I had a feeling of peacefulness like I never had before. It was a feeling that everything is going to be all right. That's the feeling. Everything is going to be all right. There is nothing that I need. It was the true feeling that there was nothing that I needed to be happy. That everything was already in place. And that gave me a really deep sense of peacefulness that day.
Did you
and
have
when
that?
I ran it, and I was enjoying it, of course, I was barely listening to anything, and I was running and flying the last day. But the feeling was not of ecstasy. It was a feeling of peacefulness.
Are you talking about your first and your second experience? I mean,
I was talking about both. On the second one, this feeling was exactly the same. It was this peacefulness, this I was really living in my mind at that moment. I was so inside, and also I was so exhausted. The last day, I was deliriously exhausted, and I was running the last mile or so, and there were like 20 to 30 hashers running with me. And I was incredibly exhausted. It was probably the most exhausted day of my life. Because I did a sequence of 45 and 43 and 36 miles, and then that day.
That's right. That's what you
told me. So that was intense. And then when I was running, I remember seeing the museums, the opera that they have. They play movies on.
Is this here in Miami?
It was in South Beach.
On South Beach.
So they play movies at night for free. So the park was full of people watching that movie, and I was running through it, and then I was taking Lincoln Road and again going to the end. And I remember that there were hashers yelling at me or saying something. I didn't listen to them. It was like I was deaf. No, I don't know. I was deaf. I didn't hear what people talk to me. I didn't hear the movie. I couldn't hear the
So you were
music
kind
or
of
the
like in
cars.
your own mind.
I was so inside. It was
Yeah.
like when people are under stress and they get tunnel vision.
Yes.
And their vision goes like narrow.
That's where you were.
With my case, it was my hearing. My hearing went, ooh, nothing. And I was totally just running. The last half a mile, I was deaf. And I was absolutely peaceful and into it. And there was nothing that could happen that would break that. And when I got there at the end, I remember that we were hashers, coming to talk to me. A lot of them understood and left me alone. Because that moment, that very moment of arriving at the beach is better done alone. You want to mix with your friends later, but for 1 minute you want to be alone. And I was there on the beach, and I remember crying and all that, but the feeling was relief, was peacefulness. And it would be potentially different for every runner, but that's how it worked for me. It was that, okay, that was it. And then we go back and party. Then we go back and party. Let me get something for you.
Oh, gosh.
Hold on a second. Let me get something.
No, it's...
There you go. So yeah, peacefulness. But not you. You got to the beach and you hurt your foot.
Oh God. Sorry, I don't. But you talk about it.
How
Yes.
was it for you?
Last day. Wow. I don't even know where to start with that. To me, it's like a day you'll probably never forget. I'm sure you'll. There are so many emotions going around that last day where, to me, at first I was like most people where I didn't even think it was possible. Like, you can't walk across the United States, and here I was confronted with my very last day, and I was a little bit afraid, to tell you the truth. Like, what do I do at the end? And I remember I ran towards the ocean, and I was running as fast as I could. It's like, wow, there it is. After seeing the Atlantic for such a long time, I finally get to see the Pacific Ocean. And everybody pictured me like partying and hanging from chandeliers and everything. And what I did was I actually hurt my ankle my very, very last day, and not having had an injury, it was very tough. I decided not to post anything or just keep that to myself. I only wanted to share that with people who were there and just keep it to myself. I remember it was like 8 p.m. and told myself, like, wow, I crossed across the United States, and here I am with ice and my leg elevated. Like, what do I do next? Like, how can I, have the same feeling of whatever I was doing? And I was incredibly happy. And I think I had that same feeling of peace too, where it didn't matter what happened that very last day. The world could have ended, but I finally finished. Finished. It's kind of surreal, to tell you the truth, where it's like, not knowing that it's possible, but I did it. I did. Thank you. You know, it's just crazy because, yeah, I had a lot of opposition, going, but two people that didn't even know me, before coming to Miami, I've never met you, and you seriously went out of your way to make yourself available to me, and to make sure that I was safe and that I had all the right facts to know that I was able to cross, and I did it. And of course, Jim, who I still haven't met to this day, and I would like to meet, and he was there for me logistically. That was very important to me. I just can't thank you enough for that.
Well, I don't think we can close on anything better than this. So, if you're listening, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
We hope you like this podcast as much as we like to produce it. This has been made possible by the efforts of dozens of volunteers, supporters, partners, and visionaries that are helping us build Voyager's World. Please visit our website, join us for free, and start participating.